Hey guys, I'm Matt. Welcome to my shop. Today I have another Suzuki Samurai project lined up. This is my Isuzu 2.2 liter diesel powered Suzuki Samurai. I've done a couple videos on this before, and this evening we're gonna tackle this abomination right here. This turbo setup is something that someone else did. It's made out of this steel rectangle tubing on the intake manifolds and some of the exhaust manifold side. If you guys watched my Paisley video, you saw that I had some weird intermittent power loss going on, and I pulled a bunch of scrap metal out of the exhaust manifold that had been getting sucked up into the turbo. So this whole thing is just poorly fabricated. It's leaky, it leaks exhaust everywhere, and obviously it's a real eyesore. And so we're gonna fix it. Now, the Samurai actually came with this turbo in a box in the back seat. It took me a little while to figure out what it was, but it's actually off of a larger Isuzu diesel engine. Really would like to go with something more standard, but it was free. It's what I've got. It looks, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm sure it's an inexpensive kind of Chinese clone, but whatever. It was free, we're gonna use it. So, I found some gaskets. I took up the time to draw up the inlet and exhaust flanges for the turbo in CAD, and then I found an exhaust manifold gasket for the engine, and I used that as a template to draw everything up. I cut everything out of 1/2" stainless. You can see right here, I got a nice thick stainless flange going. Same here. And I drilled all the pilot holes already for this, and I'm busy finishing the through holes on it for the exhaust manifold. I have a bunch of stainless elbows that I'm going to use, and some straight pipe and everything, and basically what I'm going to do is just tear all this stuff out of here, set the turbo about where I want it, and then try and build the manifolds around it. It's not going to be a particularly easy job. The space is pretty limited down in here, but I'm looking forward to cleaning up this rat's nest. Would have built maybe 15 years ago. I don't know why I never noticed this before, but see the water outlet for the turbo? It goes over here, over here, over here, right into this valve for the heater. That means whenever the selector switch on the HVAC controls is set to cold, then there's no water circulation through this turbo. That's clearly a design issue. We're definitely going to address that when we do this. So it looks like all new heater hose routing is also on the plan. There we go. Well, I see remnants of RTV everywhere, and boy, a ton of leakage right here. I already knew about that, and also up here I could see that. So it looks like we had some down here too. So we're losing tons of drive pressure for the turbo. Not surprising. This is the contraption here. 1/4" plate here, like I said, leaking right here. I saw some leaking right here, some here. Boy, look at that balloon. That thing got hot. Well, the thing I really wanted to test tonight is this. I wanted to know if my plate is going to fit here. Well, it fits on those. Awesome. Well, I ordered some new studs because I'm going to need some slightly longer, and I want to put studs in all of these. But yeah, looks pretty good. All my ports line up, and I think this is going to work great. All right, I didn't set the cameras up for a lot of it, this bad boy is finished. This is my masterpiece. I would love to say that I knocked this thing out in a weekend, but in reality, it's been on my welding bench for probably 3 weeks. Now, this isn't a 3-week long project. It's more just that I'm busy and this is kind of a hobby, and I don't know, other things got in the way of accomplishing this, but there we go. So it's not quite perfect. I won't say it's my best work ever. It's a combination of MIG welding if there was a bit of a gap, and TIG welding if things fit nice and tight. All the exhaust runners are 2-inch, and then the intake runners are kind of married together. They go from a 2-inch pipe and kind of splay out at the end since they're adjacent to each other. Now, this isn't some kind of hot rod engine or anything. I'm not, you know, building this thing to win drag races. And it never will, because I'm not changing the internals in the engine. It's just not capable of that much horsepower. But what I would like to do is make it reliable, even out all the cylinder temperatures, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, this is what it's replacing. So, I mean, I've got nice radius bends here instead of this goofy square pipe. I'm going to be able to bolt a better turbo on here. The flange, instead of this 3/16 steel, is 1/2-inch stainless, and the ports that I cut are obviously better than that. I have high hopes that this is going to work well. So I did put all new stainless steel studs in here, and I think I'm about ready to bolt this exhaust manifold into place with the gasket, and bolt the turbo into place, and then do a little bit of plumbing. Well, one of the problems that this Samurai had when I got it was that, I mean, first of all, the pressurized catch can was something out of a VW engine, and I swapped that out by putting this in here. That's in a previous video. So this is pressurized, it's not vented to atmosphere. Now the previous owner had capped this off, and the problem is anytime there's any real expansion or contraction inside of the system, there's no pressure relief of any kind. And so if the engine gets really hot, you're gonna blow a radiator hose or you know, something inside the system's gonna let go. Now the radiator cap is the pressure relief, and so what I need to do is add a vented coolant catch can here. So in CAD, I drew up a little bracket right here. I bought this bottle on Amazon. It was pretty inexpensive, I think less than 20 bucks. And this is how I'm gonna mount it. So I've got to TIG weld this on here. This is all aluminum. It's got this cool little machined cap on it, which is sealed with an O-ring. However, I'm just going to drill a little tiny vent hole on the top of it. So let's fire up the TIG welder, zap that sucker on there, and put a catch can in our system. We need some longer bolts. These bolts are too long. Uh-oh. Ah, crap. Well, that's no good. A little bit of a modification on the mounting bracket here. And that slips in here nicely. The hood should close just fine now without any issues. Well, it's time to address the cooling fan issue in here. And I want to incorporate a shroud with the mounting bracket. So the top of this isn't mounted anymore. Used to have some steel brackets that came down and bolted the headlight buckets. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like a full radiator shroud that fits inside of this radiator opening, and then make some brackets that come down and essentially bolt to this part of it. So the shroud will slide down in from the top, and then it will mount somewhere down lower here to keep the top of the radiator from flopping around. And I bought a couple of these new 7-inch fans here. So the 10-inch one that was in there before didn't fit in there, and the previous owner had cut out some of the body. These 7-inch ones are basically the largest fans that will fit in here without major modification, just like that. I think that's going to work fine for me. So I'm going to go draw something up in CAD, send it to the CNC table, we'll cut it out of aluminum, and hopefully my measurements are good and we'll get it into place on the first try. I got my sheet of aluminum loaded up in here. This is what I drew up. These are the 2 holes for the fans, and then obviously the outside matches up with the actual radiator core itself. So I think this ought to help. I actually have room for a 3rd fan kind of down low, down here below where the hood latch goes. If I decide I need that in the future, I'll go ahead and pull that shroud back out, set it back on the table, and cut that opening. But for now, we're going to just try it with 2 fans. So let's go. Let's turn on the exhaust fan in here and get rid of some of the steam. These cores aren't exactly parallel, so the bottom wedge is in between there. I'm gonna have to sand just a little bit off the edges of this thing. I'll get these mounting tabs here, a couple of marks on them. I'm gonna bend these things in the brake and weld these to the actual shroud, and that ought to give us a good solid mounting point to affix the shroud to the radiator. Well, this is the best way that I could come up with to mount this thing without screws protruding through. So I'm going to mount these radiator fans with some 1/4x20 bolts. I'm going to make them really short so they end up flush with the back of this aluminum sheet. And I'm putting some stainless thread inserts in here, because the aluminum isn't very thick. If I just drilled and tapped these, I'd probably strip out pretty much right away. But even the thread inserts, they're about 3 or 4 threads too long. So I'm going to have to grind the backs of those off flush with the back of the shroud. I don't know if it's the best solution, but I think it'll hold. There isn't really any strain on those mounting bolts for the fans. I'll put some permanent Loctite in there. I'm betting that it won't be a problem. Well, I just got back from my 3rd trip to town to find the right size belt, which I've got. And with that on, we are ready to fire this thing up, or at least attempt it. It's been at least a month since this thing was running, but I mean, it should fire right back up. I didn't make any changes to the fuel system, so yeah. I don't have any water in it, so I think I'll fire it up and let it idle here for 30 seconds or so. Just make sure we don't have any weird squeaks, rattles, bangs, whatever. Make sure the turbo's spinning, oil's getting to where it's supposed to be, etc. As long as that works, then we'll back it out and fill it up with water and see if we can get it to warm up and make sure we got good circulation and everything with my new routing on all my hoses. Let's fire it up. Obviously, I've got no exhaust on there yet, so it's going to be a little noisy, but turbo's spinning. Everything sounds quiet. Oh, that turbo whistle sounds good. All right, let's back this thing out and put some water in it. So it'll be fine for now. It's been running for about 15-20 minutes now. I've got good water circulation through the heater hoses. I mean, this one right here is hot. I can't keep my hand on it. This one here is just warm to the touch. It means it's circulating good through the radiator. Feel if the radiator's warm. Both these are hot. So I got good circulation through my heater core and my oil cooler. It's pressurized, so I gotta be careful. I got good water flow coming from my turbo. I can see that in there. I do have a leak, but it's dripping from this fitting right here. I think maybe I forgot to put thread sealant on that, so I'll have to shut that down and do that. But the nice thing is that's a high point in the system. I don't have to completely drain it for that. But even without the fans on here, it's not heating up. I mean, like I said, 20 minutes of idling. Temperature's just been hanging out right there. I think right where the thermostat opened. So, yeah, I'd say, I mean, the radiator's hot to the touch, but I'd say we've got things pretty well in hand. I am gonna pull that fitting off and add some thread sealant, but yeah. Yeah, well, I'm an idiot. This thing wasn't even tight in here. It was just loose and no thread sealant. Yeah, sometimes I do that. I'll thread things in just to make sure I got all the right fittings, but usually I remember to put thread sealant on and tighten them up. I didn't in this case. So we're gonna do that, fire this thing back up again, and hopefully the leak will be gone. Yeah, much better. Leak's gone now. notice on the floor in here, this is diesel. I know it wasn't leaking before, but obviously with the engine running, I got some kind of drippage going on back here. Where that's at, so I'm gonna have to put that one up on the lift and see if I can sort it out. I guess I'll do that when I've got it up there for the exhaust. All right, well, I'm pretty happy. Well, really all I got left to do here is run the intake pipe here from the turbo to the air cleaner, and then obviously finish mounting the radiator. That's pretty easy. I just got a couple of studs that I'm gonna weld here to this. I'll be able to screw in right there, or spacers that is. And then, yeah, that's really it. Once I install those fans and put the grill back on, then under hood will be done. I can put it up on the lift and get to work on the exhaust. Not the prettiest aluminum job I've ever done. I think I kind of screwed up in my prep here a little bit. I mean, I ran the sander over the edge, but I think there's probably some polishing compound left on here. Like when I was welding, it was kind of bubbling and getting dirty and stuff like that. Yeah. At any rate, whatever. Doesn't matter. It's not like this is a showpiece. So, look at that. And it's close to everything. It's not hitting anything. I think that's going to work just fine. Well, I think I'm going to wrap this video up here. I made some pretty good progress. Obviously the engine's running and everything. I can't drive it yet. I've got to put the cooling fans in and finish mounting the radiator solidly and do an exhaust. I'm not going to drive it with the turbo dump and exhaust under the hood. So yeah, when I get another block of time over the next couple of weeks, I'll set up the camera and finish those things off, and then we can put this thing on the road and see how this new turbo works. So thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it, and we'll catch you on the next one.